What's up? Welcome to the Wolves Squad Show. I'm Sam Ekstrom. Raise of hands. Who wants to play the Jazz every game? Anyone? Anyone?
I'm Julia Daniels, Carol Evans, sports reporter and anchor. Now that they figured out how to win, what do they do when Ant returns?
I'm Parker Fox, KFAN and Big Ten Network. This is exactly what the Wolves needed. A little time away from Anthony Edwards, get everything solved. And like Julia says, now let's put the pieces of the puzzle back together.
I'm Jack Borman, co-host of the Locked On Wolves postcast with my man Luke Inman. Sam, I did not raise my hand because I almost fell asleep at that Jazz game last night. But Ayo Dosunmu and Bones Highland kept me awake with their electricity in the backcourt.
This is Locked On's Wolves Squad Show, the twice-a-week show where Timberwolves talk gets real. No filters, no fluff. Just raw takes, sharp opinions, and straight-up passion for the game. The way only Locked On Podcast Network knows how. Let's drop some dimes and squad up. The Wolves Squad Show starts now.
What's up? Welcome in Wolves Squad Show. We do this twice a week on the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, a win over the Suns, a win over the Jazz. Wolves are back in the 4 seed, and suddenly it's all feeling really good. Ayo Dosunmu is a baller. We talk about his best traits and what the Wolves can carry over when Ant does return from the 1 to 2 week absence. Rudy Gobert kind of came alive on offense. Is that sustainable? Plus, Portland and Boston await the Wolves over the weekend. On today's show that is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Whoever wrote that just had about 8 5-hour energies, I think, before they made that copy. Jack, you fell asleep at the game? You've got Joe Ingles cannon mid-range shots, doing the bones thing after he hits a 3. That's not boring. That's basketball, baby. That's fun. There was fun in the air. There was carefree, footloose, and fancy free last night against a team that does not want to win. It was like an exhibition game.
It was like an exhibition game, and I think after seeing the Wolves playing all these pretty high stakes games, to get a game against the Jazz was a bit of a sleeper. And you talk about having fun. Everybody's got a tanking take. If you were to look at every single person on the Jazz bench, social team, everybody associated with the Jazz looks absolutely miserable going through.
Except David Locke, our CEO, who looks great and energized, and he's doing a great job every single game.
He asked Finchie a great question. Before the game, but players, coaches just look miserable. Nobody's having fun. But yeah, obviously great that some of the younger guys were able to get some run in that game, and I think too, especially for TJ Shannon, just his 4th game playing at least 20 minutes or more this season. I think for him it was probably the most comfortable he had looked, especially defensively. Didn't foul very much, had 3 steals, was really competitive on the glass too, I thought. But also just really good to see that no Timberwolves starter played more than 30 minutes, and guys just took care of business and set a great tone. And we'll get into Ayo later, but I mean, the combination of him and Bones in the backcourt, the two of those guys, putting up the scoring numbers they did as efficiently as they did, on top of what was a really solid foundation. I thought that Rudy and Julius laid inside, starting, I think, 7 of 7 from 2, and just totally flexed their muscle. Inside, I think, they've got one more of these types of games where you absolutely should win before the schedule gets tough. And it's great to see that, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. Come in, blow a team out, cover the spread against a terrible team, which has not happened very much this season. Shocker. And move on to the next one.
Yeah, Parker, what's more fun? Joe Ingles step back jumpers or Kyle Anderson buzzer beating threes?
Those two compete with each other very well. I was kind of the opposite of Jack. I actually missed the first half at the Frost game last night, and then I came back to watch the second half and was just really excited from what I was seeing. I love to pull up the box score and just kind of see where the scoring was coming from in the first half. And the thing that really encouraged me is just the evenness, the kind of the way the ball was being scored, and Dante had to be kind of the low guy in those numbers, but just the consistency across the board. And I think just the involvement of Rudy Gobert, I was able to watch the first half back and just see the way they were involving him, not only in like basic ball screen actions, but actually using him in different type of high posts and low post type of actions. So I really love that. But for me, my favorite part was the bench energy and the bench juice. We talked about guys stepping up on Tuesday and having, somebody, and maybe it's a veteran, maybe it's a younger guy, step up. And I think the whole team really took that and they ran with it. And everybody really wanted to step up and provide for this Wolves team. So I think there's a lot of really exciting things to be happy about. But then you also got to control yourself, bring it back and say, it's the Jazz. Like, let's take a deep breath here. But I think there's some stuff to build on. I'm really excited to see where the Wolves go with this.
Yeah, Julia, I think there's a place in the NBA ecosystem for teams like the Jazz. It's the ultimate get right game where everybody can score, everybody can feel involved, everybody can eat, right? Like some animals just need sustenance, and some are kind of around to be eaten, to take a analogy from the
circle of life.
The circle of Lion King, and the Wolves were Hakuna Matata, but it felt like that was kind of what they needed after a stretch of super competitive teams that they took on, and just having a night to take the foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's always nice, especially for these guys in the NBA, to just get a little confidence boost, especially when you get your young guys out there, like Bones having a night like he had last night. I think that it boosts confidence. It also shows the team what they can do without Anthony Edwards, which I think is something like Parker even mentioned in his intro, that the team, that it might be beneficial that the team isn't seeing Ant for a little bit, because then they don't have this hero ball going on and he doesn't have to put up over 30 points every night, and they can figure out how to score without him. And then, we'll talk about it in a little bit, getting him back into things. But I just think it shows that, they're 8-4 this year without Ant on the floor, which is pretty solid, which shows you something. But I think we talked about this even before the Suns game, that when we knew he was going to be out, we figured that they were probably going to come out and win these two games, because they at least know how to step up when the time calls for it. The playoffs is a totally different machine, but I think in the regular season, we've seen them do it over and over again. So I wasn't super surprised at how well they handled things. But I do think I thought it was great to see Rudy have a double-double last night. I think he probably needed that as well, just for his own confidence too. And I think also maybe he can sit back and say, I told you so a little bit too, because when they do get the ball moving, he sees the ball more often, and then he has nights like he had last night. And so I thought that was great. I thought that the team shot really well. They had a 20-5 scoring run in the first quarter. And I think starting out fast too is always helpful, obviously, in a league like this. I will say though, the Wolves are still the team where you're like, they can get up by 20 and you still don't, if there's enough time left, you don't get too comfortable, right? But I do think it is nice. I think Wolves fans are breathing a little easier at this point in the week right now, just after the past two wins for sure.
Yeah, let's kick it back to Parker. The win against the Jazz may not be translatable because of the quality of opponent, but the win against Phoenix certainly would be, because you're not going to have Ant for a handful of games against tough teams, and you're going to need to try and produce. And the Wolves did against Phoenix after a pretty miserable defensive first quarter, got a lot better from that point on. But what do you think the Wolves can take from, to a larger extent, that Phoenix win that they can carry with them even when Ant does return?
Yeah, for me, it's the attention to detail, and it's just the intensity that they played with, right? I think when you look at an NBA game, there's players that are out on the court that can go for 40 or 50 points, regardless of what defense you're going to see. There's guys that are that good offensively that can just have those type of nights. But the one thing you can control on the defensive side of the ball is your effort and your energy, and I think that's something that we kind of saw from the jump of that Phoenix game. I think that game was a really intentional approach from the Wolves. I know there was a little feistiness between, Jaden and D-Book and, a couple other guys got added to that mix. But like, we want to see that, right? Like that shows that we care. That shows that there's that energy there, that intentionality there. So I think as a Wolves fan, that's encouraging, right? Like you're coming off of a 1-3 road trip and now you're back and there's actually some fight. Like there's some, hey, we're not just gonna, be a little puppy. We're gonna be, what do they say? Be a big dog. You can't be a puppy. You got to be a big dog, something like that. And I think like the Wolves got to take that. Like Jaden has to take that. And I think I look at Jaden McDaniels as a guy that can really be that kind of role, right? We know him as this, this tough defender. But I think there's a whole nother level that Jaden can take. We've talked about his offensive prowess, how good he is on the offense side of the ball. But I think he can continue to be a leader. And yeah, we're not going to see it by his words. We know that from Jaden McDaniels, but his actions can really speak, volumes. And that's something I saw in the Phoenix game. So to answer your question, I would just say the intentionality and just the focus and like, hey, we're here, guys. Like, we're not just going to roll over. We're a championship caliber team. We got to show up. We got to show out for our fans as well on your home court.
Jack, I want your take on the game as a whole, but what is the origin of the McDaniels Booker beef? Where does that go back to? What led? Is it just the way? Because Jaden's a kind of an assassin, kind of a quiet guy. What rubs him the wrong way about Booker?
I would imagine that there were probably some small comments in the flow of a game a few years back that probably got Jaden. This is a guy who in high school called James Wiseman sewer trash during an AAU game. So, I mean, he definitely talks his trash. No question about it. And with Booker, I feel like there's just some aspects of him when he's just talking smack that Jaden probably doesn't take too kindly to. But it's a wonderful beef, Sam, and it's produced a lot of tremendous moments over the last few years.
And what do you think about the game, the movement, the energy that the Wolves can take forward?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing too is just the offensive rebounding, right? I asked Chris Finch before the game against Phoenix about the Wolves rebounding really dipping from being a team that was above average on both backboards to now being in the bottom 10 on both backboards over their previous 5 games. And he said they just have lost their way on the offensive glass and they need to get back to being a force on the offensive glass. I mean, you had 41 second chance points between those 2 games. And that's obviously really important. I mean, just for reference, the Blazers are number 1 in second chance points this season with 18 per game. So better, averaging, 20 and 20, whatever. Second chance points per game is obviously great and something that they need to lean into, especially without Ant. They've been playing some bigger lineups. We saw, in that Phoenix game where you had lineups where Jaden played at the 2. So that's something that I think we might continue to see the Wolves try to lean into if Naz Reid is able to go on Friday and just play big. Boston's a team that plays pretty small as well. And so I think if the Wolves can get back to being, a really forceful offensive rebounding team, I think that would really help things as well. And I also just think the ball contain has been a lot better, Sam. I think that there have been a lot fewer breakdowns on the perimeter that have forced the Timberwolves to be in rotation. And when they have been in rotation, I thought guys have flown around really well, closed out properly, a lot of good X outs, paying attention to the scouting report in terms of, how to close out to different guys based on, what the game plan is calling for. So I certainly think that the Timberwolves have really stepped it up defensively and then on the offensive glass as well.
Yeah, I mean, elephant in the room, Julia, are the whispers. Are the Wolves kind of better without Ant sometimes? Because like you mentioned 8-4 without him. No one's suggesting they don't want him on the floor, but there is the piece of the movement and everyone getting involved and all of some of the intangibles, right? And just the aesthetic of how the team looks at times with him kind of stuck in the mud recently. So that do you think it's convicting to Ant to see that? Do you think it helps him to observe from the sideline?
Yeah, I was going to mention that too when we were talking about all these guys who had such great nights, and more than just Julius. It's like when Bones has a great night, and then Ayo has a great night, and it's got to be. I mean, Anthony Edwards, I think 100% is supportive of his teammates, but he's also a competitor, and like he's seeing that they're playing. I mean, he's not dumb. He sees that they're playing better without him out there, and I think he's so competitive that he wants to be a part of that. He will want to win more than he will want to be playing hero ball every single night. I think I think he's probably going to take a look at these, and he's motivated to get back out there, but he's also motivated to figure out what's working. I think that he knows well enough to put ego aside in that sense and figure out how to fit into what's going on here. I think also the defensive intensity that they have is different when Ant's not out. It comes from like this team has to figure out how they can be motivated when Ant is playing. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of it stems from the fact that they're like, now we got to pick up a lot of slack here. And they do play with more intensity on both ends of the court because Ant isn't out there. I think that that's maybe a little bit of a character flaw that this team has right now. And so they got to figure out some kind of motivation. I mean, I would think that, you know, the playoffs and playoff positioning would be motivating enough, but sometimes it feels like that's so far off, even though it's not, that it's not like the next night's problem. You know what I mean? And so I think figuring out how to get Ant back in there and finish the way that they have been, but also being inspired while he's on the court too. I think his teammates need to figure out how to be inspired while he's out there too. And so it's a weird balance they've got to strike right now, but they've got to strike it right now if they want to have success and further into.
I have done my research and I've come to the conclusion that Ayo Dosunmu is good at basketball and good for this team. We will spend the next segment saying nice things about him on the Squad Show. Brought to you today by Wayfair. It's spring, even though there's snow on the ground. It's here soon, I promise. And it's time to refresh your space, make your home better, update a room, add some outdoor furniture because it's going to be deck season soon. Organize that cluttered corner. Just get some freshness in your home. That's where Wayfair comes in, from furniture and decor to organization solutions and outdoor essentials. Wayfair makes it easy to find pieces that match your style and your budget. It's very easy to filter through and get the products and results that you desire when you are browsing Wayfair. There's also thousands of reviews from the consumers, so you can shop with confidence when you see all the positive feedback. You can also find easy assembly options if you are like me and you don't like, you know, putting something together with hammer, nail, screwdriver, all of that. Whether it's a new desk for a home office, storage solutions, outdoor pieces, easy to find something that fits both your style and daily routine. It's furniture, decor, essentials that fit your style. Head to wayfair.com right now and shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Fired up that you're with us on the Wolves Squad Show. Make sure to check out Ben Beacon on Locked On Wolves. We're streaming live on Locked On Wolves. Find our audio, the Locked On Wolves podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Parker Fox, Ayo Dosunmu. Man, this guy's fun to watch. 23 points last night, shooting the three, getting to the rim. Let me give one Ayo stat that I enjoy. He has more drives per game on the Timberwolves than anyone except Ant, Julius, and Jaden. And obviously they're playing a lot more minutes than Ayo is. He's just north and south, man. He's relentless. Like it seems so simple, doesn't it? You're a former player. You like, it seems so simple. Just put your head down and get to the rim. But he does it at such a different speed and efficiency.
Yeah, I remember, like I mentioned, on a couple of podcasts ago of me playing against him in college, right? And I hadn't been too updated on Ayo's pro career, to be honest with you. But I knew one thing, that he was elite in transition, something that I saw with my very own eyes, watching it on the court. And it's something that's really coming kind of to fruition here with this Wolves team. And, he's not quite becoming a featured guy yet. I don't know if that's going to be his exact role on this Wolves team, but he's totally a 20 to 25 minute stabilizer. And I think that's something that if you can get those kind of minutes from a guy like Ayo Dosunmu, not only is it going to help your team, but it's going to give you a whole different dynamic. Like this Wolves team, I don't know if transition ball was what they were really looking for with Julius and with Anthony Edwards. Now I think they could have been. Ayo adds that, and I think that's something that's like really encouraging, not only for fans, but also like for teammates, for guys that want to get involved, for the energy. Like, who doesn't love getting out in transition, throwing lobs, getting easy layups? Like, these are the easy points that you need if you want to continue to win games. I think his downhill pressure is something that it really is special, because I think when you talk about Anthony Edwards, right, it's the isolation on top of the key. Kyle Anderson's playing a little slow-mo. Dante DiVincenzo's coming off for some slow stuff. Now Ayo's putting pressure on you, putting pressure on you, putting pressure on you. Now, what does that do? It creates for yourself. It creates for dump offs for Rudy Gobert, and it creates for kick out situations for shooters on the perimeter. So I think there's a lot that can really come from Ayo's downhill pressure. And I tweeted about it last night. He needs to be a Wolf for life, because I absolutely love his energy, his effort, and just his enthusiasm that he plays with. Like, it's infectious.
I love this Finch quote, Julia, about Ayo. Quote, when you look at Ayo's shot selection, there really aren't any bad ones. I can think of maybe 2 or 3 bad shots he's taken since he's been here. Totally agree. You've got a couple guys that can be inefficient at times. Ayo is not. Ayo is so efficient, and it raises the offense, right? It's good shots, high quality shots at the rim. You like him in the mid range. You like him from 3. He can score from anywhere.
Yeah, I think when I was when they picked him up, the first thing we were looking at, like, how does he fit in? And even now, if you just Google Ayo, the first thing that you're going to see is efficient, is like the word that everyone uses for him, right? And then I was just looking at his stats, and for this season, I mean, he's almost 54% from the field, and then almost 42% from 3, which is like, I mean, does it get much better than that for the league, especially when you're talking about offense? But I also think it is just the balance that he strikes when he's out there. I think Parker's exactly right. Like, his defense is also, like, he knows how to lock down perimeter defense. And you see it every single time that he's out there, and he's been so consistent. I mean, especially on a team where we have talked about how they have struggled with consistency anywhere. When he's been out there, he's just been great on both ends of the field. But I think his offense is just like speaks volumes. He has not had a bad night since he's been with the Wolves yet. And I think he's having a career year already, but offensively, and the way that he was able to step up in Ant's absence last night is really nice, because, I mean, I don't think he's had opportunity to do that so far besides these 2 games since he's been with the Wolves, and to see that he can do that, and it doesn't have to just be Julius or Jaden that steps up offensively for this team when Ant's not out there, says and speaks numbers for the depth that they've brought in onto this team too. So I think he fits in really well. I think he's obviously, I mean, he led the charge last night with 23 points, and what did he have, 27 minutes out there or something like that? And so, I think he just fits in so well. It's nice for Wolves fans to know that they've got a guy like him on the team.
Yeah, if he had played like 9 more minutes, could have been on triple-double watch. And Jack,
yeah, because he had 9 rebounds or something like that.
Yeah, 6 assists, I think. Incredible efficiency. Jack, with Naz's injury issues, he missed last night, ankle and shoulder. And I think Finch used him first, Ayo, that is, first off the bench. I want to say against OKC. He obviously gets the start in Ant and Naz's absence. Are we going to see him as your 6th man as long as Naz is dealing with what he's dealing with? Do you think Ayo sees even a bump from where we expected?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could be possible that is the case. I mean, before last night with there being the blowout, obviously, I mean, he had played 30+ minutes in 3 straight games, and we haven't seen Naz do that very much, in large part because Julius and Rudy, all the credit in the world to those guys. They've been extremely available this season. I think between the two, Julius has played in every game, and Rudy's missed maybe 3 or 4 games from those suspensions.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I think that you can make a very good case that Ayo will be playing more minutes than him, and I think part of it too also is because of the foul trouble factor too, right? I think that the great thing about Io is that he's 6'4", 6'5", and is really strong for a guy his size, and does really well. Being able to stand up some bigger, more physical guys in a way that I don't think that I necessarily anticipated with him coming in. And so, if Jaden's in foul trouble, or Ant gets in foul trouble, or Dante doesn't have it, or whatever the case may be, he can be a reasonable facsimile for any of those three guys, coming in and playing with that first unit. So I think that that's also really important. And Parker talked about wanting Ayo to be a Wolf for life. And I think a big part of that is being able to be in those lineups and be successful on both sides of the rotation split, which is generally the guys that play with Naz or the guys that play with Rudy. And he's shown a great aptitude to be able to play with either of those guys and fit in really nicely with more of that pitch and catch game with Naz, where he's flaring out to the perimeter and popping on screens, or snaking and pick and roll and being able to elevate in that kind of floater range, or getting all the way to the rim in more standard pick and roll with Rudy Gobert. So I think you certainly could see his role continue to grow. And I think that Finch clearly has a really strong trust in Ayo already. And I think the thing that's most encouraging for me is just the scoring aspect of it, right? I think he was very deferential in his first, maybe 5 or so games that he played in Minnesota, which is certainly understandable coming to a new team. But I think, you see how many shots he's taken over the course of the last few games. I think has been really important with Ant, without Ant. Doesn't really matter. He's been a guy that's been taking at least 8-9 shots a game at minimum. So I want to see him to continue to be aggressive and continue to try to create as many easy points as you can, like Parker talked about with transition, right? I think it's something that Tim Connolly certainly wants this team to do, is be able to create easy points out of thin air when you can. And he's done an excellent job with that, along with Bones Highland, who has really fit into that up-tempo, faster pace environment that Ayo has really been creating when he's on the floor.
Parker, give me a quick analysis on the shot form of Ayo, just a former player's perspective on it, because it's pretty unique. It's not slow-mo unique, but it's interesting.
Well, I think it shows you that his natural kind of like what he wants to do is he wants to get downhill in transition. I think he's a versatile finisher around the rim. I think that's something that he does at a really high level. He's athletic enough to get above the rim. Yeah, he's 6'4", he's 6'5", so he should be dunking a little bit more. I think as Wolves fans, we'd all like to see him dunk a little bit more. But nonetheless, I think that's something that sometimes we get frustrated with Anthony Edwards too, is some of his finishing is not where we want it to be when he's not elevating for some of his dunks. And I think that's something that Ayo brings. So like I said, naturally more of a finisher at the rim. And I'm glad Jack brought it up because there's kind of two different ball screen situations that we've seen him in. And I think that affects the kind of shots you're taking, right? Like when Naz Reid is setting screens for you, you're looking to get defenders on your hip. You're looking to kind of get into that little push shot floater a little bit more, or that little dump off pass. And then when Rudy's playing and maybe a defender goes under, now it's more of a set shot, right? So it's not like this come off ball screen, get my left foot down, really smooth Klay Thompson type of motion. It's more of like, hey, pull the ball back. Like when LeBron does that little stare thing and he pulls the ball back, it's kind of more of like that. And then get the ball. He starts it up. He really starts it up. A lot of guys, especially when, you get late into the games, your legs get tired, you start really pushing it forward. That results in a more flat trajectory. Yeah, Ayo really gets his elbow underneath the ball and shoots it up. But I personally, I think Ayo's at his best when he's in that mid-range situation like Jack talked about right there. Is he's coming off screens, he's snaking different ball screens, he's getting defenders on his hip, and now it's that push shot or it's that extension and finish at the rim. So I think there's a lot of different aspects of Ayo's game. But I'm really encouraged by the three-point shot. I think it's at 41% right now. Like if he can continue that up and maybe bring it to 2 or 3 to 4 or 5 attempts per game and keep that, percentage, like that's a difference maker, especially at your backup guard position.
Great analysis. Rudy Gobert showed some catching ability yesterday under the rim, had a little offense, and Kyle Anderson had some great quotes about it. We'll visit that on the other side of this break on the Squad Show. Brought to you by ZocDoc, finding a doctor you actually like and feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network nearby, has availability, they listen, they make you feel comfortable, a good bedside manner, and explain things clearly. Hard to find that exact diamond in the rough, like we talked about, but they do exist, and you can find them on ZocDoc. It's a free app and website. Helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors. Find someone you love and you trust without all the hassle. So we're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering over 200 specialties. It's primary care, dentistry, dermatology, eye care, the whole 9 yards. Doctor appointments can be stressful to book, especially when you're having to wait on hold and you have to listen to the hold music, which is probably the worst part. And then they tell you that it's 3 months delayed. Well, ZocDoc makes the process simple. Search by specialty or symptoms, build a care team that works for you, see real-time availability, and book instantly with no phone calls. Yes. Stop putting off those doctor appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Find and instantly book a doctor you love today. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this show. Rudy Gobert may be motivated against his former team. Came up with a 9 of 12 performance with some legitimately good catches and slams around the rim. This is when the Wolves offense can, really churns. When Rudy is at his best, Julia, he's catching the ball, he's putting down alley-oops. Guys are getting him involved. We know Rudy wants it. Like, Rudy basically is begging to be thrown the ball. And
yep,
it's a catch. It's pun intended, a catch-22, because
it is.
He's not.
Oh, sorry.
He's not good at holding on. No, I'm sorry. No, you go ahead. Chris Finch had some good quotes about this. And I just wanted to read this one. Chris Finch says, they know not to look to me for sympathy if Rudy drops one of their passes, because sometimes he's going to. I tell them to keep throwing them. We have to. It pays off more than not. I'll take some of those turnovers if we're trying to make the right play. Go ahead, Julia, your thoughts.
I just think it's so funny how Chris Finch is just so brutally honest sometimes. It's hilarious. It's also what we see all the time. But what I was going to say is I just think it's so funny, like the full circle of Kyle Anderson and Rudy Gobert. You had mentioned his comments, and Kyle had said he's a force. We got to be able to find him. Watching a lot of Timberwolves games these last few months. A force. He said he's a force. I mean, Kyle has felt the force of Rudy Gobert before. He said, Timberwolves games these last few months when I wasn't on the team, I'm like, oh, they miss Rudy. They miss Rudy. You get downhill and he's open at the rim a lot, which I think, I just find it funny because, we know how things started out with Kyle and Rudy on the same team. And now to see them both helping each other out when they're talking to the media and talking about what they feel like is going to work, I think also shows maybe the professionalism that they have as well. But I do think, obviously, we know that Rudy sets some of the best screens in the NBA, but we also know like he is available a lot of times right at the rim, and they aren't finding him. And I think we saw, that working out for them last night. I think maybe it does have a little bit to do with how Ant plays his game offensively. And that's another thing that they've got to figure out when he gets back is making those opportunities. That's where I think that this can be sustainable for the team, is if they can figure out how to make that work. But that being said, I sent you that meme last night, Sam, for a reason, where it's that meme of the guy like looking at his hands like this. And it's like Rudy when he realizes that he has hands when he's in the paint, because there are times, and I've stood by this, and he's completely wrong. There are times when he just is butterfingers down there. And then that's when Wolves fans get really frustrated. And a lot of times it's in like really huge moments when they need him there and he's unable to finish for them just because of simple little mistakes like not catching the ball when you're in the paint, when you're under the rim. And so I think, yes, it can be sustainable, but I don't think we've seen it be sustainable just yet. They've definitely got a lot to figure out in terms of making Rudy useful offensively, in terms of actually scoring points.
Yeah. I'm just not convinced, Jack, that that even if Rudy has some productive games, that it necessarily changes a team's game plan dramatically. He's not going to draw a lot of bodies because he's not catching the ball in the post. That's the type of post player that can really like change a defense and get guys open. But what's your take on Rudy's offensive ceiling here at this point?
Yeah, I don't think his offensive ceiling is dramatically different than, what we've seen. But, I mean, you want to go back to the playoffs last year and see how Rudy Gobert packed up the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round with, what was it, 27 points, 28 rebounds, something like that. Maybe it was 28 and 24, whatever it was. I think, again, we all know what Rudy can do offensively. It's mostly centered around his offensive rebounding and putbacks. And then I also think Parker would be able to speak to this better than me, but I just really like the way that he spaces and moves in the dunker spot based on when guys are driving. I think he makes himself available more than guys are finding him. Obviously the slow-mo comments are right on the, hitting the nail on the head there. I think, with Julius and Jaden especially, I think Jaden probably does the best job out of anybody of driving baseline or driving middle and keeping his eyes, kind of on Rudy and seeing him, because he knows that, when Rudy's there, they want to give him the ball and it's either a dunk or free throws. And now thankfully, Rudy's cut his free throw routine, the time it takes for his free throw routine by more than half. Which is pretty significant because his free throw percentage has been a lot better of late. And that's something that could dramatically increase his scoring from being a 12 points per game guy to being maybe, a 16 point per game guy, simply just shooting, 70% from the free throw line instead of shooting 50% from the free throw line. And so I think for the Wolves, they're not really running any, plays to get Rudy involved more. I think it's mostly just on the guards and the guys that are driving to realize how the defense is playing them in ball screen actions, and then how they're going to look to get the ball to Rudy from there. I think Utah last night was pretty aggressive in a lot of their ball screen coverage and opened it up for Rudy on the roll. And there were some late digs and tags that allowed Rudy to, be able to be successful at the rim. And he was obviously a menace on the offensive glass. So I think for Rudy, the formula is pretty much the same. It's just a matter of, players finding him and I think delivering smart passes. I think sometimes people just, get mad whenever Rudy doesn't catch it. But I think there's also sometimes when passes certainly are not delivered in the best possible way. But I think too, it's just really unfortunate that the Wolves have never really been able to capitalize on Rudy being such a lob threat, because it felt like every single time when he was in Utah, came to play at Target Center, he'd have like 5 or 6 lob dunks a game. And so, especially with Ant being the guy he's partnered with most in pick and roll, I just don't know that we're ever really going to get there.
Yeah, Parker, your thoughts on this? I mean, I think it seems to me like what Jack is saying. It's got to be the lobs. You're not Rudy as a cutter doesn't work. Rudy in a post up doesn't work. It's got to be lobs. It's got to be offensive rebounds if he's going to get involved.
Yeah, it does. He's not Nikola Jokic where he's going to catch it. He's going to turn and face. He's going to survey the defense. He's going to have somebody cut. He's going to be able to deliver a skip pass. That'll never be his game. It doesn't need to be. But I do agree with what Jack, had to say. I wish there was a little bit more of this almost Clint Capella, James Harden type of, lob threat situation, because I think Rudy's capable of it. He's a capable jumper off of either leg or off of both leg. He's got extendo arms. And then I think that the next evolution off of that is, if you're a guard, you can never miss a layup short, because what that does is the ball goes down versus hitting the rim and going up and allowing Rudy Gobert second chance opportunities. It's something that I would always tell my guards that I would play with, is if we're going to miss, just miss it high, because that allows us to, crash the boards. That allows us to, get put back second chance opportunities. And we know how much killer that an offensive rebound kind of margin can be. Like, if you're killing a team on the offensive rebound, it's a true killer. Coaches hate getting beat on the offensive glass. So I think that's something. And I'm glad Jack brought it up too, is sometimes it's hard as a big to catch some of these passes. That's why we always say this little shuffle underhand, catch at the hip is almost impossible. Like it has to be either a bounce pass or it has to be a lob at the rim. Those are like the only two possible, situations, because one, it's easier to catch, and two, defenders' arms are, usually by their side. They're not, towards the ground or up in the air too high. So I think that's two things that you can look at for Rudy Gobert. But I think you can tell kind of from the jump of games, like what kind of version you're going to get of Rudy Gobert. And I think Jack is right with the Jaden deal too. I think Jaden's a kind of guy that's usually looking for Rudy, and I think that's something that as we go on throughout this playoffs, and we get in deeper, hopefully into the second and third rounds, like we need to continue to utilize Rudy. And a happy Rudy is usually a good Rudy for this Wolves team.
Yeah, I do find it interesting how it does seemingly fluctuate from game to game, and not quarter to quarter, but it's like, oh, did Rudy grease his fingers today? Oh, he did. He can't catch it. Oh, bummer. Like it does kind of go like for a full game. Lakers game, great example recently. Couldn't hang on to anything. Last one, Jack, with the way he's been shooting free throws this year, which I believe is a career low, except for his rookie season. Yeah, it's 50-50. Are you surprised we haven't seen more like legitimate hack-a-Rudy? And do you think that's a ploy that could be used by opponents in the near future?
I think we've honestly seen it in some of these instances. I think there have been, certainly times where Rudy can kind of steal smalls in the front of, the front of the rim, where they just hack him immediately when he touches the ball. I mean, when you think about it from like a hack-a-Shaq perspective, certainly the Wolves, haven't dealt with that very much. But again, I think, if you honestly kind of partly want to do the math too, right? Like if, the half court average points per possession is like, let's say it's like 0.85 or 0.9, like if you're going to foul a guy that's a 70% free throw shooter, the math just doesn't really make sense for you to do that. And so it makes a lot more sense when a guy's closer to 50%, but even then, the math just doesn't really bear out it being a smart thing to do. And so I think that's something that you got to factor into it as well. And also when you consider the fact that, it's just a really down year for Rudy from the free throw line. Like I think that, again, I don't know that it's fair to say that it's, just kind of like a mirage, but I think for Rudy, I don't necessarily think that defenses, especially considering, when you have Anthony Edwards, you have Jaden McDaniels, you have Naz Reid, you have, just explosive options everywhere, that you then want to also invite the potential for Rudy Gobert to be really impactful on the scoring side of things with him going to the free throw line. So I don't think that that's something that you're going to see in the playoffs. I mean, certainly you wouldn't want to have Rudy Gobert out there in, late game free throw situations unless he's in there to get a rebound. But I'm not concerned about that moving forward.
We'll close the show with predictions for Portland and Boston next. And we're brought to you today by 5 Hour Energy. It's the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. The pick is in. There's 18 different flavors anxiously awaiting. Who am I going to choose today? Tropical Burst is today's choice. My favorite and number one pick on this Thursday. Tasty caffeine with island vibes. Like to be on a nice warm beach right now. Delicious combination of pineapple and apricot flavors. Juicy, fruit-forward, tropical profile. It's smooth. It's bright. It's sunny. It's island style. You can get flavors like that and many more with 5 Hour Energy shots. Gives you a boost with zero sugar. 5 Hour Energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. And I can't imagine what they'll come up with, but I guarantee you it's going to be fantastic because with the 18 flavors they have now, there's a lot of creativity going on. You can get anything that your heart desires with these 5 Hour Energy shots available online, 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Portland and Boston this weekend for Minnesota. Now, this Portland game, yeah, you want to win, But Portland is playing for the 8th spot. They are trying as hard as they possibly can. This is a plucky Portland team. Jack detailed that more on Tuesday. Julia, can the Wolves go 2-0 against Portland and Boston now with Jason Tatum back in the lineup this weekend?
Can I ask a question? I know Ant's week to week. What does that timeline mean? Like, when I was trying to look and see.
Yeah, 1 to 2 weeks, and 1 week would
1 to 2
be
weeks?
what?
Okay.
Yeah, what would 1 week be like? Early
I think
Tuesday?
you'd be looking at either that Houston game on ESPN on Wednesday night or Detroit on Saturday night next weekend is probably one of the
now
two
Cade
best.
Cunningham now, by the way. That's
Yeah, I
pretty
hope
big
he's all
news.
right. Scary.
Collapsed lung. Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably no Ant over the weekend. Tatum coming in on Sunday. He's averaging like 21, 9, and 4 in his 6 games back from injury. Boston's looking good.
Yeah, I still think that the Wolves. I see why the Wolves, they're favored in both of those matchups, though, right? And so I
don't know
can
if
see
we
why
have a
that
line
is.
on Boston yet, but I would guess they'd be favored against Boston, but without Ant, I don't know.
Without
I don't know.
Ant, though,
That might be a toss-up.
yeah.
I'd say Boston
I
minus 5.5 would be my line.
Ooh, 5.5.
Okay. I could see, yeah, okay. I could see they pull out a dub versus Portland and then fall to Boston. I could see that happening for sure. But I also see I'm interested to see Ayo in these matchups again. I want to see, this is like the first time where we're gonna be really relying on his consistency. And I think he's proven to us that he can be consistent, but now starting, I want to see his game continue the uphill incline that he's been on. I mean, the entire season, but especially now that he's got some opportunity and more minutes than ever. And so I'm going to go, they will beat Portland and lose to Boston. But I do think that we're going to see some really great minutes out of Ayo in both matchups.
Yeah, not really any margin for error when you get a Portland in here, Parker. You have to win.
Mm-hmm.
Even Portland's trying very hard. I get it, but like it's not a gimme game. But you have to beat the 500 teams from this point forward. You really can't let any of those slip.
Yeah, and I think the Wolves know that, and I think you can tell with the excitement and the energy they played with for the past couple games, being back at home. I think they take care of business on Friday, and I'm with Julia. I think Boston's licking their chops right now, looking at the East, seeing what's going on with Cade Cunningham, and saying, "Hey, this could be, this could be us now that Jason Tatum's back and healthy." So I think Boston gives us a good fight, especially without Anthony Edwards. So I think we go 1-1 over the next 2. But you gotta take care of this first one here against Portland, because kind of a trap game. When you know Boston's right around the corner, you get excited to play a really good team in the East. You're playing a 500 team in Portland at home. But I think with the confidence and the excitement that the Wolves played with the last couple of games, I think they carry that over to tomorrow, and they take care of business against Portland.
Jack?
Yeah, I feel pretty aligned with Julian Parker on that. I think again, you gotta have the smallest rebound against Portland, team that it's really prolific on that offensive glass. And you think about Donovan Clingan, you think about Robert Williams, you think about Jeremy Grant and Denny Avdia, both big physical wings that can get in there and crash. Scoot Henderson crashing from the corner too. Is a super athletic guy. I think got a rebound there. And then against Boston, you really got to defend the 3-point line, right? It's a team that wants to get up threes in bunches. They're top 3 in the NBA in 3-point rate. And I think that it's a team that isn't going to get to the free throw line a whole lot. So I think for Boston, if you want to try to beat them, I think you got to be able to run them off the 3-point line and keep them away from the rims, keep them off the foul line. And I think that your most important thing against Boston is if you win on the 3-point line. I think that's got to be the path, so to speak.
The Squad Show lives on Locked On Wolves on YouTube. We're live twice a week. The audio free and available wherever you get your podcast. Check out Ben Beacon on Locked On Wolves, the daily 30-minute offering. For Jack, Parker, and Julia. I'm Sam Ekstrom. Thanks for watching, listening, commenting, and subscribing. Back with you Tuesday for some more Timberwolves talk. See ya.